know damn well that you're not actually fighting.
No.
Right? And we see that so much. That's the difference between... It's the difference between the Democrats. I mean, they've shown, hey, they'll put their opposition in jail. They'll smother them. They'll silence them. There's nothing they won't do to preserve power. We'll write a strongly worded memo and do nothing to follow up. And I think as long as you have that sort of imbalance in the response, nothing changes. Because the Democrats, they'll take their win. They'll run to the bank. They'll laugh their ass off along the way, and nothing changes until we actually start fighting back.
I think a lot of people yesterday, when
the Democrats go hard for their base, man, they're ready to jail you, assassinate you, whatever it takes, man, to hold on to power. I mean, they put Trump through hell, man, with really a bullshit case, the Stormy Daniels situation. But man,
when that verdict came down, I'm among them. My first reaction was, wow, they'll actually hurt us. Like they would execute us, me, I'll just say, speak for myself, and there would be an MSNBC panel of former federal prosecutors telling their audience that I deserved it, and they'd be laughing. And the Lincoln Project would send out a, congratulatory tweet, and I was like, wow, there's sort of a lack of humanity, there's a coldness, there's an evil under all of this that I think I underestimate.
I think we all did, and by the way, I think many still do. Again, it's hard to believe that you could live through these last 8 years or whatever, 10 years, and not think that. I mean, look at, that this is even, within 10 points in terms of an election. Like, I can't name literally a single metric, a single one, geopolitical, economic, or otherwise, like where we're better off now. And yet, they'll outraise us. They'll do this. The media still pushes it as though, Bidenomics is doing wonderfully for you. Like, I get it. I'm the son of a billionaire. If I'm pissed off at the grocery store, like, I'm not like one of these woke guys on one of these channels where it's like, my 3-month-old baby was talking about nuclear proliferation on the Korean Peninsula, Tucker, and she was crying. She was scared. It's like, I get it. Like, I understand where I'm come from. I'm totally comfortable with that. I've been blessed. But like, if I'm sitting there with sticker shock, like, what's the country feeling? If I see what's going on in my interest rates on my mortgage, like, man, how much longer can we do this? Then you talk about wars and trillions of dollars of spending, and then the Republicans are telling us that, the Ukraine is the number one most important issue for Republicans across our country. I've heard that from Mitch McConnell dozens of times. It's just not, right? I've spoken in front of more Republicans in the last year than Mitch McConnell has in his entire lifetime. And I think I've surveyed, probably I do it live, like just at a speech, 1,000 people here, 500 people here, 5,000 people there. It's been a top 10 issue at about 65,000 people for 3 people. One of them was a DC sort of beltway guy. Yeah. He felt very strongly about it. Probably he was profiteering off of it. One of them misunderstood the question, so he thought it was a double negative. So it was not, in fact, a top 10 issue for him. Because is it top 3 or top 10? And one of them, it was top 10, but not top 3. And I said, sir, and I'll ask him. I don't care. I want to hear it out. Like, I'm from Kiev, Ukraine. I was like, I'm going to give you a pass. So I'm going to effectively say, out of about 65,000 people surveyed in the last, let's call it 2 years, 18 months, whatever it is since the war started, a little more, I guess, exactly. Basically 0 people have been in favor of this, but the leader of the Senate will tell us it's the number one issue for Republicans across the country. It's just not so.
How can that be? I was in D.C. last night. I never go back. I'm from there. Mm-hmm. And I took 3 people to dinner, 4 people at the table. Nobody drank. For all 3, I am a teetotaler, so are the other 3. Yeah. And it's a good restaurant, but not like a famous restaurant. Yeah. Restaurant I've eaten at for many years. The bill was $800 for $800.
Not drinking.
Not drinking and nothing crazy. Yeah. Like salad, steak, dessert, $800. Right. And I thought, I'm pretty insulated from cost, but I thought, I can't. How do people live here?
My experience was opposite of that. I took 2 of my boys on a fishing trip, and we were coming back, traveling through an airport, and we went to a McDonald's, and it was my 11-year-old boy, my 14-year-old boy, and me at the time. It was the last, and it was like $47 and change for like an 11-year-old child, a 14-year-old child, and me. I'm like, right. Again, it's not going to change my spending habits. I'm not pretending. I drive it. My truck has 700 horsepower. Like I'm not happy at the pump, but like.
But if they're telling you the war against Russia is the most important thing to Americans,
yeah, no, it's not.
They're lying. So both of us have sort of skipped ahead past an analysis of the case and sort of taking it as a given that what we saw yesterday was grotesque and really sort of the end of a fair justice system. But for people who've just heard that and not gotten some of the details that prove it to be true. Yeah. Can you just run through what the case was?
I mean, it's literally.
And you know too much, I know. But to the extent
it's like,
you can.
How much time we got? But the it's a books and records thing, right? I mean, it's literally a filing. It's like a misfiling, and yet it's something that was never before tried as a felony. Like many of the other cases, like one of the cases in New York where they changed New York state law to be able to, for 1 year. They changed the law for 1 year to be able to go back and change a statute of limitations so that you could go after my father. And then after that year, after that is filed and they go after my father, that was the Gene Carroll case. It reverts back to the normal statute of limitations because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do it. This was very similar. This was a case that was, at best, misdemeanor type stuff. Remember, Hillary Clinton started with a similar thing. She got fined $8,000, I believe it was, for starting what was the Russia hoax with the Steele dossier leaks and all of this, right? That was an $8,000 fine. They want to put my father in jail for, upwards of 100 years, depending on how you look at it. And that's never been done before in these things because basically someone in an accounting department put legal expenses for, paying a lawyer. It's unheard of. But you have experts when they say, well, it's a federal election crime. They wouldn't let the person who wrote the rules, wrote them, is the foremost expert in all of that, actually testify for us. The jury didn't have to be unanimous on the things that they charged. They just all had to sort of come to a general, 4 guys agreed on this and 4 people agreed on that, and 4, that's unanimous. The bastardization of all of this thing, and just having been in the courtroom, candidly, was watching, when the prosecution, objected to something that we said, it was always, sustained. They let them, we couldn't ask anything. When it was us asking the questions, the uncomfortable questions of their witnesses, all of a sudden, we were overruled every time. Just the list goes on.
So you've made the case, and others who followed it carefully have made the case that this was a direct hit from the Biden administration, and 100%. They point to a man called Matthew Colangelo.
Yeah.
Can you tell us who he is?
Yeah, Matthew Colangelo was the number 3 guy in Joe Biden's Justice Department. So from Washington, D.C. The other big part of this case, as it relates to that, was that they're trying to say it's a federal election commission case. Well, name another case that's ever been tried that's a federal crime tried in a state court.
So Matthew Colangelo is number 3 at DOJ. So that's about as high as a prosecutor can ascend.
Correct. Right? And he was moved to New York. Don't forget, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney that actually tried this case, turned it down years ago. They could have done this 7, 8 years ago, whenever it happened, but they didn't. The Federal Election Commission, the FEC, that would have been one of the things that's around it. They could have tried. The IRS could have done these things because if it was a tax thing. All of them chose to pass, including, again, Alvin Bragg, the guy who's trying it and just tried it right now, passed on this a couple years ago. Biden's number 3 at his DOJ comes up, and all of a sudden now they're filing the charges.
Can I ask
conveniently
you
right before an election.
A dumb question. So the number 3 guy at DOJ who's ascended this ladder,
yes.
Okay, what is he doing in New York? I mean, that's a massive step
what is he
down.
doing? He's prosecuting his political enemies, Tucker.
Okay, but that's it. But nobody.
There's literally no other explanation for it. When you look at the bastardization of this, you have a judge who's a Biden donor. His daughter is one of the number 1 Democrat fundraisers.
When you say he's a Biden donor, he's literally a Biden donor.
He's a Biden donor, literally has written checks himself. His daughter is one of the most prolific fundraisers for the radical Democrats, Adam Schiff and she's made millions off of that. This judge allowed his daughter's clients, Democrat mega donors, to sit in the courtroom. It's like having front row seats, like you own the New York Rangers, right? It's think of how insane that is, right?
But can I ask a dumb question? First of all, why would the number 3 guy at DOJ wind up in a state case? That seems like he must have been sent.
Of course.
1. 2, if the judge was literally a Biden donor and donating to, among other things, like the Stop Trump effort, which I think was one of them, how could he remain the judge? How could he?
Because it's New York. What do you appeal it to? You appeal it to another panel of radicals, right? I mean, it was like the New York AG case, right? We got fined almost $500 million.
Yeah, man. That whole trial was just a scam, man. You got these Soros-funded DAs doing all the groundwork. They're all crooked, man. But I want to touch bases on the Ukraine situation, man, and I feel like a lot of this attack towards Trump is his stance that he might be able to calm things down in Europe, and we know that's a big hit to the MIC, which is the MIC is profiting crazy from this war through weapon sales and gas prices. These people are making a lot of money. War is what they say war is what makes America money. You know, it really, that military industrial complex, man, is making a lot of money from this war, guys. And, you know, the U.S. arms industry is the big winner. And who runs that? You know, go look into that, and you start connecting the dots and being like, oh shit, okay. Now I get why they're going after Trump so fucking hard. You know, I don't think Trump's going to be able to do anything as far as his foreign policy to calm things down in the Middle East. It might even exasperate it. But I think he can calm things down with Ukraine, and that puts them out of business, you know. Especially, you know, these people have to demonize somebody. Even Russia, when you listen to Putin's interview with Tucker, he said Russia was trying to, you know, come to terms with NATO and even join NATO and become an ally. And they wouldn't allow them to do that because they needed someone that they want to demonize, you know, especially a communist state like Russia, which is, you know, isn't what they would consider a free market where they can fucking capitalize over that country. You know, and they wouldn't let Putin do it. So they always need someone to demonize to start conflicts and wars for the MIC to get paid pretty much, man, so they can go ahead and loan us these fucking shitty loans with high interest rates, man. It's crazy what they're doing, man, but I think that's a big reason why Trump's being targeted by these folks. But, yeah, I guess we got to see what happens, man. Holy crap, man. Holy crap.